Hello, everyone. Welcome back for part two of this week's edition of the Cleveland Sports Show. Joining me once again this week is Nordonia freshman Logan Purcell. Logan, hey man, how you doing?
I'm all right. I'm all right. It's been a long week. You?
Yeah, I'm doing well, man. Same here. It's certainly been a long week now with the virtual learning here at Nordonia, but definitely pulling through. But hopefully, it won't be a long week. The next coming weeks won't be that long because NBA basketball is finally back, Logan. Cavs getting ready to suit up this weekend in almost what nine months of not playing at all. Colin Sexton and Darius Garland are really the two bright spots for this Cavs team, I think. The starting backcourt, as they were last year. Colin Sexton, last year, Logan, averaged about 33 minutes per game, 21 points per game, and shot about 47% from the field. Darius Garland had a strong season as well. In 59 games, Garland averaged about 31 minutes, 12 points per game, shot about 40% from the field, so definitely some room to improve there. Logan, Cavs have an interesting preseason. They're going to be at home for two games against the Pacers at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse starting tomorrow at 7 p.m. And then this upcoming week, they're going to be in New York City at Madison Square Garden for two games against Obi Toppin and the Knicks. First, let's get into the Pacers, Logan. Victor Oladipo looks healthy, ready to go. You have Justin Holiday, Domantas Sabonis, Malcolm Brogdon is still there. Let's talk about the Pacers a little bit. How do you think they're going to contend in the East? Because we know now, we've discussed this a lot, the East is loaded. Where do you see the Pacers when it comes to possible playoff standings?
In my personal belief, I can compare the Pacers kind of to the Cavs this year. They definitely don't have the young upside, in my opinion, but I do think that they are in the same situation where they have a couple guys that can really score the ball and they can really get it done. You know, as you mentioned, guys like Brogdon and Oladipo, and you got to talk about Miles Turner. But they do have a lot of guys like that. But I don't see them really making the playoffs this year, especially in, as you mentioned, a really good Eastern Conference. So I don't really see them as a playoff team this year.
They did just get a new coach as well. They hired Toronto an assistant coach from Toronto. So do you think maybe possibly that, because the Raptors won a championship a couple years ago, that that coach can bring that championship caliber to the Pacers? Because, you see Oladipo, you see Brogdon. I think those guys are in their prime right now. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on those two specifically?
Yeah. I mean, I really like the pickup from Toronto. I mean, I definitely think that he's going to bring that championship mentality, kind of similar to what we talked about with Russell Westbrook, bringing that, no one's going to stop me mentality down to Washington. I really like the kind of mentality that I think he's going to bring into Indiana. And then I also, when you mentioned Oladipo and Brogdon, I really do like them, but I don't know if I can say for sure that they are the all-star caliber kind of guys that they're going to need to be to really contend in that Eastern Conference. I still think that team is missing one piece.
Yeah, absolutely. Malcolm Brogdon winning Rookie of the Year in 2016-17, and Victor Oladipo, the most improved player in the 2017-18 NBA season. We'll see how they fare against the Cavs. This weekend, they have a game Saturday, 7 p.m., and then they're going to play again from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse on Monday at 6 p.m. Cavs have a strong roster, I think, Logan, now. You've got guys like Drummond, Kevin Love. I mentioned Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Kevin Porter Jr. is there. You have Larry Nance. Matthew Dellavedova is still around. If Dante Exum can improve and play like a fifth pick of an NBA draft, I think you have some serious talent on this Cavs team. But what are your thoughts, Logan, on these preseason games? I think the Pacers are going to be a tough matchup for Cleveland, but also the Knicks. What are your thoughts on the Cavs playing the Pacers and Obi Toppin's Knicks?
I'm excited to see, more than anything, the Cavs versus Knicks game. I think that is going to be a really good testament as to whether the Cavs are really going to be able to compete at all this year. Because, I mean, I think early on, a lot of people are, thinking of the Cavs as that black horse team, that team that really does have a chance, but it's kind of, you don't look at them as a team, like the Lakers. You think about the Lakers, you're thinking repeat, right? You don't think maybe they make the playoffs, right?
Right.
But the Cavs are a team where, if they play well, they have a chance. I like to see this Knicks game because I'm excited to see if Okoro can really be that defensive X factor that so many people have touted him to be. And then I'm also interested to see if Andre Drummond, who didn't play a lot last year for the Cavs, is going to be able to make an impact against a really big and really, really good center in Mitchell Robinson for New York.
And for me, Logan, I just had a quick question for you. You said that, the Cavs are really going to see their potential in those Knicks games. You're using the New York Knicks, who haven't been relevant since we were born, to be quite honest with you. You're using them as your measuring stick. Not saying, because I think Obi Toppin's going to be special in New York, and I think they're on the right path. But I would say that this Cavs roster is, to me, it's far superior than New York, because I don't know what New York is building. It's just a bunch of forwards, Obi Toppin, and a couple of guards. I mean, that's really what the New York Knicks look like to me. I think Tom Thibodeau is going to have them play defense better, but I mean, I feel like the Pacers, I know you said they're kind of regressing, but I think that's a better measuring stick because the Pacers have quality players. I don't know what's going on with the Knicks. I mean, are your thoughts on that, Logan?
Yeah. So I agree with you there, but in my opinion, right now what the Cavs need is, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, is they don't need to build an entire team. I mean, you're saying how the Cavs are more superior. They need that one player. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see who's going to be that player.
Yeah.
So you're going to see, what I'm saying is you're going to see a lot of individual matchups. I mean, I think Obi Toppin's real.
Yeah, for sure.
And the guys that we're talking about, a guy like Isaac Okoro or Andre Drummond, Andre Drummond has proven to be an all-star. But as we've seen in a lot of players in the past, there's regression. And last year, he played really well. But I'm interested to see if he's going to keep that level of intensity. So that's what I was referring to with the Knicks comment.
Okay, yeah. Additionally, Logan, do you think Isaac Okoro should be a starter?
Oh, I do. I think I do not actually for that. At least for the summer league or the preseason, I don't think he should be a starter. I think he's going to be the sixth man because my starting lineup for the Cavs right now is I want to play Darius Garland at the 1. I'd like Sexton at the 2. I want Cedi Osman at the 3.
Yeah.
Nance at 4 and Drummond at 5, and I want Kevin Love off the bench as well.
You really want Kevin Love off the bench?
I do. I feel like with the kind of lineup that the Cavs have built, I think they've built a very fast-paced offense. And I think a rim runner like Larry Nance in there instead of Kevin Love would give a lot more potential for the offensive starters. Not to mention, if you've got a guy like Isaac Okoro and Kevin Love off the bench, that bench might be able to keep up with another really good bench.
Yeah.
So right now, with the way Kevin Love has played as of recent, I'm having Love off the bench. Maybe if he plays better when come regular season, maybe I bump Nance back into the second group. But I like Larry Nance over Kevin Love right now.
So, yeah, Logan, I definitely think Kevin Love needs to improve health-wise. We saw he was a lot more consistent in terms of actually playing games last season. And your explanation is valid. I can totally see how that would make sense, especially with your point of how, Kevin Love coming off the bench with that secondary unit for the Cavs could, keep pace with another secondary team like the Clippers and Lou Williams or something like that. The only problem I see with that, and Logan, I don't know if you agree with this, is that this is, we're not only dealing with basketball, we're dealing with some egos here. And, Kevin Love is now, signed this big multi-year contract with the Cavs. He's the guy for the Cavs. When people outside of Cleveland, think of the Cavs, they think of Kevin Love, to be quite honest with you, because that's the only guy left of that remaining core. So, you're asking Kevin Love to take a bench role, which he's most likely not going to be very happy with. And to me, that's going to just cause turmoil in the locker room. And there was already a lot of turmoil when he was a starter. So what are your thoughts on that, Logan? If Kevin Love would – I don't think he's going to go to the bench, but if he would, I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I completely agree with you there, and that was exactly why, the second LeBron went down to Los Angeles, even though they had a bad year. I mean, I wasn't super confident in that Cavs team because ever since Kevin Love came from Minnesota, I mean, you look back then, he was 25 and 15. 25 and 15 every year. He was really, really good there. And, everybody had a lot of confidence. That Cavs team did win the championship. But after then, Kevin Love had never really been the same guy. So, after LeBron left, I was a huge supporter of, get Kevin Love's contract out of Cleveland, blow it up.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself a chance because, now the Cavs are kind of locked down with that contract. They can't really do anything because now they also have Drummond's contract they're dealing with. So when it comes to the locker room, I completely agree with you. But, I mean, I think the Cavs kind of had this coming at them because they should have moved Kevin Love the second LeBron left. That's my opinion.
Yeah. I think Kevin Love can definitely be a piece you can build around. I like what this Cavs roster has thus far. I think Kevin Love, maybe we're being a little bit too hard on him right now. The season's yet to start. They've had 9 months layoff basically. So, I think they're going to be pumped. I think they're going to be motivated to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, Cavs schedule, let me remind you, this starts this weekend, the preseason. The Cavs will host the Pacers at Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for 2 games. Tomorrow, Saturday at 7 p.m., and then this upcoming Monday, the 14th at 6 p.m. The Cavs will continue their preseason this following week with 2 games in New York City at Madison Square Garden against the New York Knicks. We'll see them taking on Obi Toppin. That should definitely be an awesome matchup. And then the first official regular season game for the Cavs will be Wednesday, December 23rd at 7 p.m. LaMelo Ball's first NBA game, real NBA game, will be in Cleveland, Ohio. So I guess some history making there for LaMelo Ball. Logan, one more topic I want to talk with you about in terms of the NBA. Then we're going to get to some Browns and NFL stuff. But right now, the player who I've been hearing a lot and probably the most this past week is James Harden. We saw James Harden did not report to the Rockets' first practice because he was in Atlanta celebrating the rapper Lil Baby's birthday without a mask, by the way. And then apparently he took a trip to Las Vegas before reporting back to Houston. Now, Harden has to pass 6 COVID tests in order to return to the Rockets. A lot of people are saying, Logan, that those pictures he posted of him at the birthday party were kind of a sign of that he wants out of Houston. Do you think James Harden wants out of Houston, Logan, to start?
I mean, yeah, he better want out of Houston. I mean, he has been an absolute monster there. I mean, he's 36 plus points per game throughout playoffs. You're talking, walking triple double. Russell Westbrook with the ability to shoot the ball. I mean, this guy is just crazy, and he hasn't even made it past the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah.
If I were James Harden, I'd want out of Houston. Now, in my opinion, that this of course doesn't excuse his behavior, but I mean, because at the end of the day, you're a multi-million-dollar, you're a $41 million per year kind of guy. You should be showing up to practices. But I mean, I do think he wants out of Houston because they haven't ever really built a winning culture there.
And I think also, Logan, if the Rockets, because the Rockets don't have to trade Harden, they can just keep him on the roster with John Wall. And this could end up, to me, Logan, I mean, I don't know if you remember a couple years ago, remember Jimmy Butler when he was with the Timberwolves and he was always, criticizing his teammates and making, a big deals at practice, and it almost became like a soap opera. I feel like this, if the Rockets decide to keep James Harden on the roster, it could end up something like that Jimmy Butler situation in Minnesota. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, of course, how you mentioned it became a soap opera, and I agree. But if you look at some of the comments that were made, Jimmy Butler claimed that he was, mostly the ones that I heard about was him, arguing with Karl Anthony Towns, his side buddy partner over there. And that was about how he wasn't putting in work at practice. Don't
forget about Andrew Wiggins, too. He was critical of Andrew Wiggins as well.
Yeah, and I think Butler at that point had a point. Both of those guys coming out of the draft looked like really good players, but they never really improved.
Yeah.
Neither of them really got much better compared to their rookie year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he had a point. And, he comes back and, blows everybody away as a number 5 seed going all the way to the NBA Finals and taking the unbelievable stacked Lakers team to 6 games.
Yeah.
So I think to me he had a point. But I think this James Harden situation is a bit different. I think I anticipate a big move. I anticipate the Rockets making a move on James Harden.
Where do you think that move's going to be, Logan?
I'm gonna have to go ahead, and I really like the Bucks.
Okay.
And I know that's a bit of a black horse kind of, no way, but they do have the kind of pieces to move. They definitely could make a move on James Harden without moving one of their 2 big guys in Chris Middleton or Giannis, because they now have Drew Holiday, who is definitely a piece that the Rockets could be looking to acquire.
Yeah.
And they have a few picks. So I think that is a huge opportunity for the Bucks to really make a move in the East.
So do you think Milwaukee would be willing to give up their newly acquired Drew Holiday plus those picks? We know Milwaukee's kind of like Cleveland, small market. So I don't know if James Harden's going to stay there long term, though. So if you're Milwaukee, are you really willing to give up your newly acquired asset in Drew Holiday? And I know Drew Holiday's not James Harden, but plus those picks. So you obviously think that's worth it, Logan, in that case?
Well, I do, and I'll explain why. Because James Harden has re-signed in Houston, and Houston obviously is a little bit bigger market. But when you think of big markets in the NBA, you're not thinking Houston. You think Los Angeles. You think New York. You think Brooklyn. You don't think Houston as a huge market. But James Harden has constantly re-signed there, despite the fact that they haven't really won much.
Yeah.
Of course, they made the playoffs, but with a guy of James Harden's caliber, you're not looking to make the playoffs. You're looking to get rings. And I think he's willing to substitute the big market factor if he's winning in Milwaukee. So I think if they were to get James Harden, they'd compete a lot more than they are now.
Yeah.
Because he's a playoff player.
Right.
Giannis hasn't really performed in the playoffs, but Harden always has. Harden always performs.
Yeah.
So I think the acquisition of James Harden could be really big, and I think he'd be willing to re-sign there if he was winning some gold. So
last topic with James Harden, Logan, then we'll move on to some Browns talk. The Brooklyn Nets and the Philadelphia 76ers are the top 2 options for James Harden right now. Personally, I think the 76ers should pull a trade for him. But what I want to get into is if the Sixers and the Nets are not willing to get James Harden, here are some other possible options. Toronto Raptors, and I'm looking at the CBS NBA page. Toronto Raptors is an possible landing spot. Minnesota Timberwolves, which was one that raised my eyebrows, Logan. New Orleans Pelicans, and also the Denver Nuggets. So out of those 4 teams, which do you think that James Harden would be willing to sign with any of them?
Willing to sign with probably the Nuggets.
Okay.
Because of the fact that they have those young pieces. They have Jokic, who looks like the best center in the NBA, in my opinion. You have Jamal Murray, who really wasn't a household name until this last bubble playoffs.
Yeah.
He was dropping 40 plus per game in a whole round, which is just unreal to me.
Right.
And it kind of, if you match up the stats, it kind of looks like James Harden. When you look at some of James Harden's best series, it's kind of identical. So, I like him to sign with the Nuggets, I think, is what he's going to do if he had the option to sign. But when it comes to trading, I think the Timberwolves have the most assets.
Yeah.
Because they have all those picks that are projected to be pretty solid picks in the draft because the Timberwolves haven't been good in a while.
Right.
And, they do have some pieces in there. They've obviously shown the ability to make some big moves. I think they've got the pieces, the acquisitions, and the confidence to make a move on James Harden.
Yeah, we'll certainly see. This is going to be definitely some interesting aspects to whatever happens with James Harden. If he stays in Houston, if he goes to Philly, goes to Brooklyn, I would love to see James Harden in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform. I think the pairing of him and Embiid, even without Ben Simmons, you still have Tobias Harris. You have Matisse Thybulle, who's a quality defensive player. I really believe in Shake Milton. So we'll see what happens with James Harden. But that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes our NBA news for this week. We'll have more to talk about as we'll have some preseason games to cover. But this past Sunday, Logan, we were talking last week how this Browns versus Titans game was going to be competitive. You said the Titans were going to pull away in the fourth quarter. The final score was Browns 41, Titans 35. So it was a tight. If people didn't watch this game, they would have thought, okay, Browns pulled away in the fourth quarter. Absolutely not the case, Logan. I think we were both completely wrong on this one. The Browns were dominating, and when I say dominating the Titans, I really mean it. The halftime score of this one, Logan, 38-7. Baker Mayfield threw 4 touchdowns, 334 yards, 25 for 33. Nick Chubb had a touchdown. Rashard Higgins had a touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones had a touchdown. Jarvis Landry contributed to the party. I mean, the Browns were just dominant from the start. Your thoughts on this game, Logan?
Well, as you heard, I mean, I had the Titans in this game. I believe 27-24 is what I said.
Yeah.
And I was driving on my way home, and I got a bunch of texts from people. You got to see this game. Check out this game. Look what the Browns are doing. And I saw the score was 31-7. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there kicking myself, and I'm like, wow, is this Baker guy real? Like, is he that guy? Was he a good pick for the Browns? Is he now showing that he can surpass a guy like Josh Allen or Kyler Murray, those kinds of guys that are really good, really young, have a lot of potential? Mm-hmm. And I looked at the stats, and he had, as you said, 4 touchdowns. And I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay. And I stopped watching the game because I was like, they're winning. And the game final score comes around, it's 41-35.
Yeah.
And the Browns almost blew that game. Going into that halftime, I had the utmost confidence in Baker Mayfield, the entire Browns defense. They were killing them. I mean, because, you mentioned the touchdowns for Baker. You didn't mention the Derrick Henry fumble force on this Browns defense. Mm-hmm. And I think that was just absolutely huge in the confidence boost for the game. But I saw the 41-35 score, and I was sitting there laughing because the Browns offense scored 3 points in that second half.
Yeah, that is a little bit concerning to me as well, Logan. For second half score was 28-3. Tennessee scored 14 points in each quarter of the second half. So, Logan, even as explosive as the Browns were offensively, how concerned are you about that defense? Because I don't think if the Browns just score 3 points in a second half or any half again, especially in a playoff game, I don't think they're going to be advancing very far. How concerned are you about this Browns defense?
With the Browns defense, I was, I'm pretty okay with the Browns defense because, to go to the playoffs and be competitive, as a lot of teams have shown, if you have a really, really powerful offense, you don't need a great offense. It can't be subpar, but it doesn't have to be awesome.
Right.
As the Chiefs have shown. But if you don't have a great offense, you got to have a dominant defense. The Niners defense last year, both teams had completely different, team builds. And I just don't like the way that the Browns defense was able to play. And confidence, I like this. As I mentioned, I love the D-line. I think they have, in my opinion, the best D-line right now in the NFL. Best pass rush, best run blocking, best run stopping, everything.
Yeah.
The secondary is a struggle, though.
Mm-hmm.
So I really do like this Browns defense as a whole.
Yeah.
I think the secondary needs a little bit of work, though.
Yeah, I remember you mentioning a couple weeks ago as well, Logan, that Browns secondary certainly does need some work, and it showed on Sunday. So the Browns are going to have a great test for them this upcoming Monday on national television. We have some Monday Night Football for you on ESPN. Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens are going to be in town at First Energy Stadium for a matchup with the Cleveland Browns. The Browns currently have a 9-3 record. They are second in the AFC North Division. Pittsburgh finally lost a game. It was to the Washington football team, so they are now 11-1. That loss for Pittsburgh was also a home loss at Heinz Field, which was interesting. 9-3 is the 9-3 is the Browns' record. Ravens still look like they're catching up. They could possibly catch up with the Browns too, Logan. Ravens 7 wins, 5 losses. They're 4-2 on the road. They actually have a better road record than a home record. And for the Baltimore Ravens, they actually clobbered the Dallas Cowboys in Baltimore 34-17. So Lamar Jackson and company certainly have some momentum heading into Cleveland this Monday. What are your overall thoughts on this game? What do the Browns need to focus on if they want to come out with a 10-3 record?
In my opinion, this game has got to be like ground and pound.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, the Browns' main offensive strength is that running back duo in Hunt and Chubb. They can't rely on Baker like they tried to in week 1. If you look at week 1, Chubb and Hunt didn't get a lot of touches. They played well for the touches that they got, but they weren't getting the 20, 30 touches like they have been as of recent on this winning streak.
Right.
It was really Baker that they tried to put this game on, and he just was not able to get it done. So I think from an offensive aspect, you need to give the ball to your best players and get your ball to your playmakers and let them do what they do. Defensively, you gotta run probably a QB contain op defense the entire time. You gotta keep Lamar in the pocket. If you can, you gotta force this guy to beat you with his arm, because if he beats you with his legs, the entire Ravens running game is going to pound the ball down the field.
Yeah.
So the Browns' defensive linebackers, in my opinion, I think a guy like B.J. Goodson maybe or Mac Wilson need to get in there and really force him to stay in the pocket with some of the maybe some pass rush.
And also, Logan, I remember you were talking about that week 1 game where the Browns just got clobbered by the Ravens. We're not going to talk about that. Brings back some bad memories. But I do remember in that game, Odell not being very happy with his level of productivity. And then he obviously suffered that tough injury. Are you surprised with how well the Browns have been kind of able to make up for Odell not being there? If you are, who has really stepped up and taken his place?
Well, I like the fact I heard a lot of people right as Odell had gotten that Achilles injury, saying that maybe Baker plays better without Odell. Because, if you look at the efficiency rating, Baker plays better. It looks like he's more efficient without Odell Beckham Jr. out there. And I think to an extent that is a fair point. But at the same time, you have a top 10 receiver in the NFL at your disposal, and you're going to say that a quarterback is better without him. And I just disagree with that point entirely, because that's completely ridiculous. But at the same time, when it comes to efficiency and strategizing offensively, I think Stefanski and Kitchens and all these past head coaches that have had Odell Beckham at their options for Baker have tried to force it to him. They've heard the antics talking about OBJ doesn't get the ball, and he's talked about how he doesn't get the ball. But if you notice, when he doesn't have the ball, when he's not on the field, everything seems to flow a little bit better.
Yeah.
Now, that is no discredit to Odell Beckham Jr. Like I said, he's still a top 10 receiver in the NFL, but at the same time, this offense just isn't built for him.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're much better built with spending money on a great offensive line and maybe a couple solid receivers like Jarvis Landry, a guy like Rashard Higgins, a speed guy like Donovan Peoples-Jones. I think that's how this offense should be built, and not trying to force the ball to a guy like Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, it's certainly been interesting to see how well the Browns have basically been able to win games without Odell Beckham Jr. The Browns have now, Logan, won 4 in a row. Their last loss was that 16-6 loss on November 1st at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. And let me keep you updated with the schedule one more time, ladies and gentlemen. Browns and Ravens will face off at First Energy Stadium in Cleveland this upcoming Monday at 8:15 p.m. for some Monday Night Football action for you. The Browns then have a 2-game road trip in New York. So that home game against the Ravens, second to last game of the regular season for Cleveland. That 2-game trip to New York, MetLife Stadium, and Sunday the 20th of December, will be an 8:20 p.m. matchup against the Giants, and then the 27th at 1 p.m. Browns will be facing off the Jets, who are still winless. And the Browns will conclude their regular season at First Energy Stadium in a great division rivalry matchup with Pittsburgh. Logan, your overall predictions for this upcoming Monday between the Browns and the Ravens. Who you got?
This Monday, at 8:15 on Monday, I will take the Cleveland Browns in a 28. I'll go 38-28 Browns.
And that's interesting. A high scoring affair you have there.
Yeah. I think both these offenses are really, really high octane. I think both offenses have the ability to score quickly. I mean, as you mentioned, the Browns' offense this past week really shocked people. The Browns scored quick. I mean, and a lot of them, Baker had a great game.
Mm-hmm.
He had a 75-yard touchdown to Donovan Peoples-Jones, the rookie receiver from Michigan. They've got a lot of pieces, but you can say the same about the Ravens. But it's similarly built offenses. Mark Ingram has the ability to run over you. Lamar Jackson has the ability to run over you. Receiver wise, you've got a guy like Hollywood Brown, who is just a big play kind of guy. You've got a lot of pieces over there. I think both of these offenses are just going to do really well. But I'm expecting some big things from this Browns defensive line this week.
Yeah, certainly. Also expecting a great game this upcoming Monday. Browns-Ravens, 8:15 p.m. from Cleveland. Well, Logan, that concludes this week's portion of the Cleveland Sports Show. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again, really appreciate you joining me every week. It's always great to just have another voice and another interpretation of how things are going in the sports world. So, Logan, thank you so much for joining me. Have a great weekend, man.
All right, you too.
Thanks. And ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our final episode, or not our final episode, our final segment of this week's episode to the Cleveland Sports Show. Now, you're probably wondering, well, Darius, that was such a terrific segment I just listened to with you and Logan. I want to listen to more of the Cleveland Sports Show. Well, let me tell you just how you can do that. If you are on NordoniaHills.News, you actually probably have the easiest way of accessing my past episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show. All the other ways are easy as well, but NordoniaHills.News is our primary go-to website. So if you're on NordoniaHills.News, just go to the Contributors tab, and you'll see my name spelled Darius Sethna. It's about the third or fourth one down. It's spelled DARAYUSSETHNA. So you have, once you click on my name, you'll have all my past episodes of the Cleveland Sports Show in a list for you. I also have articles that I wrote over the past summer on some player bios. And also, this current episode of the Cleveland Sports Show will be on there as well. I also would like to mention that you can access the Cleveland Sports Show on Spotify, Twitter, and on YouTube as well. Just type in my name to any of those websites, and you should be able to access the Cleveland Sports Show. Also, I'm so happy to announce that Nordonia Boys varsity basketball is back, and our broadcasts are back. I'm so happy to have Shane Romero joining me for the camera work, and I actually had a co-commentator in the night's game against Wadsworth, Ben Hirsch. A lot of you live streamed that game. If you didn't have a chance to watch that game, make sure you do. I also had another broadcast this past Tuesday where the Knights faced off against the Hudson Explorers. So those are going on YouTube. I've posted those videos, those broadcasts, to my Twitter channel at Nordonia Sports, so you'll be able to look at them there. And that concludes our segment of the Cleveland Sports Show. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time out of your week to join me. Really appreciate you guys listening to me every week. And go Browns, go Cavs. Can't believe I'm finally saying that. It's been so long. So happy that the Cavs are back. Everyone have a great week. We will see you very soon for our next Cleveland Sports Show episode. Take care, everyone.